Divinity Original Sin is a turn-based fantasy CRPG released in 2014 by Larian Studios. Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition is an updated version of that game featuring a variety of improvements. Here are my first impressions of the changes offered. First, let's talk about the new Tactician difficulty mode, which was conceived to increase the challenge level and force players to adopt new tactics. Unlike hard mode in the vanilla game, which just applied statistical modifiers across the board, Tactician Mode in Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition seems to change up the encounter design as well as the enemy abilities and AI. For example, an early combat encounter involves battling a small group of undead in the rain right outside the town gates. It's a pretty forgettable battle. On Classic Mode, Tactician Mode changes things up by adding 2 bolt-stricken zombies who show up on your flanks during the fight. As their name implies, they use lightning-based attacks, which means they can stun your characters who, by the way, have reduced lightning resistance due to the rain. This totally changes the way the combat encounter has to be handled, because those zombies can destroy you. In my case, I accidentally came across an easy answer. On the arrival of the bolt-stricken zombies, I decided to retreat backwards to avoid being flanked. This put us in sight of the gate guards, who joined in and helped me dispatch the undead. The change in encounter design made the situation feel unique and fun, and it actually came to a more unique resolution as well. It's a much more interesting way of adding difficulty because it reduces the incidence of one-size-fits-all solutions. Instead, you have to consider the situation and all the tools at your disposal, or get lucky like I did. The point is, it feels like a natural extension of the kind of gameplay Divinity Original Sin excels in, but with new variations to keep things from getting stale. It's not just encounter design either. Enemies in general seem to use more spells, special arrows, and of course grenades, which can lead to some interesting situations. The problem is, they don't seem to do so in an intelligent way. For instance, I keep seeing enemies use area of effect attacks that hit more of their own units than mine. Now this is par for the course when it comes to AI in complex tactical games, so I can't really hold it against Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, but it's still annoying. Moving on, I mentioned grenades earlier. Another new addition to Enhanced Edition, grenades are consumable items that can be thrown to apply a variety of effects in a circular area. There are grenades that explode into fragments, grenades that set things on fire, grenades that burst into water, grenades that heal, and many more. This is a change that I'm very happy with for 2 reasons. First, grenades give melee-focused characters a way to make use of the fantastic elemental interactions in Divinity Original Sin. Although spell scrolls exist, they're not as effective as grenades for a typical close-ranged character. That's because elemental spells rely on intelligence as their main attribute, which typical non-spellcasters have little of. The other reason I like grenades in Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition is they provide another element of encounter-to-encounter resource management. In other words, if you use up all your grenades on the first enemies you fight, you won't have any left for later. Divinity Original Sin is a little light on this type of resource management because spells are limited only by cooldown, which means you can fully heal after each encounter as long as you have 1 healing spell. Unlike typical fantasy CRPGs, magic and health conservation are not a part of the non-combat gameplay in Divinity Original Sin. This makes consumable items, gold, and equipment durability the main resources for that aspect of the game. So adding another useful consumable in the form of grenades improves not only the combat, but also the non-combat gameplay. This could also apply to wands, another new addition. They're single-handed ranged magical weapons that deal some type of elemental damage. Nothing too special there, but they also let the user cast a limited number of a certain spell. There's no way to replenish spell charges, so when you've used them all up, they're gone until you get a new weapon. There are a few problems with this though. First, the wand's normal attack is too good. There's not much reason to use those limited high AP cost spells when you can instead do quick wand attacks at excellent range for good damage with a 100% chance to hit, the ability to trigger elemental interactions, and the possibility of inflicting a status ailment. This becomes a bigger problem the more you level up the wand weapon proficiency, since that buffs up your main attack's damage even further. The second issue is that wands come at you fast and furious. I was upgrading my wand every 5 to 10 combat encounters. There was no need to manage my spell charges at all. Unlike grenades, which open up many new possibilities to the gameplay, wands incentivize using the same basic attacks over and over again. Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition also comes with a variety of new spells and some changes to existing spells. In particular, buff and debuff spells were improved, but I still prefer direct damage. The main reason for that is that the effects applied by direct damaging spells often have some cool interactions which can totally change the decision-making process. Plain old statistical modifiers just sort of sit there for a few turns. I mean, it's more fun to burn down enemies with an oil fire that totally changes the face of the battlefield than it is to make them a little bit slower. It's not so much that the buffs and debuffs are ineffective, as it is that they're not as fun as other abilities. Finally, there have been a few other improvements to the loot generation, the overall level of polish, and the performance of the game. I'm kind of glossing over these because they're a little more subtle, but I will note that the addition of free camera rotation and the ability to go into a top-down tactical view both make the game much more playable. For example, they make it easier to select targets in combat, which was a little finicky in the vanilla game at times. The revamped writing and dialogue still often feels like it's in the way of the fun rather than contributing to it, and although the voice acting is a nice touch, it doesn't do anything to reduce the overall verbosity of the game. In short, I think Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition is a great update to an already enjoyable game. There are some changes that I feel ambivalent towards, like the so-called improved dialogue, but there are others that I think are fantastic. Tactician Mode in particular is an excellent example of how to make a better hard difficulty setting. For new players, there doesn't seem to be any reason not to play Enhanced Edition. For those who have already played Vanilla, I don't know if there are quite enough changes to warrant a second playthrough, but there are at least enough to give it a try, especially since it's a free upgrade.